I was about to say, I hadn't heard that yet. All right, so welcome back, everybody. So like Miss Katie said, we are going to do a review of our numbers. What I'm going to do, I've been trying to re-angle this. Oops, I knew I was going to drop this. I have it stacked strategically on books. Never stays. Never stays, guys. So if you randomly see me fall, that's because the books fell. Anyways, we're going to do a quick review of numbers. And for this, I'm not going to really stay too long. We're just going to kind of go through them. If you need more clarification on a specific number, let me know. I'm actually going to open my chat right now so I can see everything. Okay. All right. So we're going to start all the way from the beginning. So we had our 0, 1, 2, 3. I know this one's like a hard change sometimes. It really is. 4, 5, 6. There you go. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. Remember, you can do the 6 and shake or the pinky bounce. 16. If that's too hard, just do the shaking. Then we had our 17. So 17 or 17. If you're like, girl, that is not me, don't worry. You do not have to try to do it. I promise. You can just keep shaking. You're good. All right. 18. 18. All right. Sounds good. Someone mentioned that she was having problems with this one. So with her camera. So she's going to try to switch to a different one. Okay. So we had 18 or 18. Then 19. 19. Or 19. Miss Katie, you're doing 16. I looked at when I knew that looked wrong.
Wait a minute, I have a defense because I'm doing it. I'm signing with my left hand, so I can write with my right hand. So it's throwing me off a little bit.
I can give you that because as someone who's a lefty, oh, don't even ask me to start to spell things with my right hand. Let me tell you, it can get bad. If I'm slow, I can do it right, but like fast, no, but can't do it. All right. So then we have 20, 20. Then 21. 22. So 22. 23. And it's just your middle finger that'll bounce. Yeah. There you go. 23. Then 24. 24. So 2, 4, 24. 24. I know it's almost like a mouthful when you're trying to like sign it. It's like that's a lot of movement right there. 24. And then 25. 25. So your ring and middle finger together and bounce. 25. Okay. Let's go to 30 because 26 through 29, like we know, is going to be the same as the 22 and 23, 24. So 26 all sorts. So we had 30. 30. So 3 pull into a 0. And we have 40, which is 4, 0. 4, 0. Then 50. 50. 60. 60. 70, 70. If you need to go slower, go slower. I'm like I said, I sign just as fast as I talk. 70, 80, 80, 90, and then 100. 100. 100. 100. Okay. Let's do our last two. Okay. And then we'll move on to our time. All right. So we have 1,000, 1,000. And Lydia, I don't know if you've seen the video. So it's going to be, you're going to touch here at the base of your palm. 1,000. There you go. 1,000. And then our million. 1 million. So it's going to be 2 bounces. 1 million. 1 million. Okay. So as another quick reminder, when you're doing bigger numbers, like if you're doing 10 million, things like that, you can just add that 10 when you do your million. If you're doing like 100,000, you just do 100,000. So it just kind of keeps adding to it. Okay. Just a little quick review on that. Okay. Let's move on to some time signs, guys. All right. We are going to start kind of with our basics of time. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for time itself. So the sign for time is going to be time. 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 Okay. Then our next one we're going to have is, so for second, really the way second is going to go, it's not used as often, I will say. It's kind of surprising how little I use that and how little everyone I've seen, like it just does not come up in conversation. Like, we'll say 1 second, one things like that. Not really often do I see that one as much as more as like 1 minute in ASL. So just to say that, but what you would do for second, you're going to have your non-dominant hand sideways. Dominant hand's going to be in that pointer finger. You're going to put it on top like this. And I'm going to turn it so you can see, but really you just keep it this way. You're going to do the tiniest bouncing back and forth, like the tiniest. Okay. So the reason for this is almost like the face of your clock, and this is the marker, like the pointer. Okay. So the tiny one is to show that it's seconds. It's very little. Okay. So seconds. Okay. Then we have minute. There are 2 signs for minute. Okay. I'm going to show you both, and then I'm going to kind of explain the context for them. So the one for minute is going to have this face again. So non-dominant hand, dominant hand's in that pointer, put it on top, minute, minute. And you go back and forth slightly bigger, minute. Okay. The other sign for minute is going to be your pointer finger is in this, or your dominant finger is in a pointer finger. Your non-dominant is also pointer, but comes at the base, minute, minute, minute. So you're kind of like, you point to your base of your hand. Yeah, this is one where you actually do touch the base. And you go minute, minute, minute. Okay. So this one itself is genuinely like just the sign for minutes itself, like minutes. But if you were to be talking to someone and saying, like, now I know mine's going to obviously be a school setting because that's what I do. But if I'm telling my students like, oh, we have 5 minutes left of class, you have 5 more minutes, things like that, I would do 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay. So that's where I use this minute. So like if it's 1 minute, I'd be like 1 minute, 1 minute, that sort of thing. It's kind of, I use that more for the conversation rather than this one. You can use this one, but this one is more like, I see this more used in the context of a conversation. Okay. Now, if you notice, like I said, when I did 5 minutes, I did the 5 and I did the point. That is how you can calculate or tell time. So like if you did 5 minutes, you could do 5. Well, I would not suggest doing 5 minutes for this. I would actually do 5 minutes because this can very much look like some other signs, not bad signs, just other signs. There are a few where I will be like, hey, don't do this because you will be saying a bad word. But this is actually one where I'm like, no, that just looks like cheese. And I think someone would be very confused if you're talking about like, I have 5 minutes and you're saying I have cheese. I don't think that conversation would make sense. So, but that one, I actually would do 5 and then minutes. But if you're doing this one, you can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 13 minutes, things like that. It's that pointer hand that will show the time. Okay. All right. Let's do our hour and day, and then we'll go back. Okay. So for hour, what you're going to do is you're again going to have the hand sideways, pointer finger on. This time now, though, you're going to go in a full circular motion. Hour, hour, hour. And the importance with this one is you do want to have it going forward, just because that is like time goes forward, not backward kind of motion. So, but yeah, hour. And this is one you can apply that number to. So if you're saying 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. If you were to get into more like 11, 12 hours, whichever, I would do 12 hours. So 12 hours just to separate. But most of them you can do like 5 hours. 5 hours is a weird one. I don't think I've used 5 hours. I think I do always do 5 hours because that's just such a that looks like confusing when you do that. So, but most of them like the 3 and 4, definitely 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is probably where I would stop. I knew 10 hours. It is kind of a personal preference though. If you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to do 10 and 1 every time, go for it. That'll work too. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is day. So for day, you're going to have your non-dominant arm go across. I'm going to lean back a little so you can see. Your dominant hand is going to be in this pointer finger kind of position, almost looking like a D. And you're going to go day. 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 Okay. Let's go back to our first time, which was time. So we had time. Then we had second. Then minute. So the first one, minute. And minute. Minute. Okay, we had hour. Excuse me. Hour. Then we had day. Day. Okay. So, I'm gonna hold off on the different, well, no, I can do all day. Okay. I was trying to not start into the, sorry. Neighbor just got home, car door, slam, dog's great. So, anyways, what I was trying to say was the variations of day, we're gonna hold like yesterday and tomorrow. We will come back to those. And all day, we're just gonna go into week, month, and year, and then we'll start doing the different variations of day and stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out how I would describe this, but I don't know how to title this. So, but you'll get what I mean in a minute. All right. So for week, what you're going to do is you're going to have your non-dominant palm up again. You're going to have your dominant in that pointer finger, and you're going to start at the base of your palm and go across. Week. And again, this one you can add that number to. So 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whichever. Okay. All right. Our next one is going to be month. Month can be an awkward one to sign because of how to hand placement. So bear with me. I'm going to try to describe this slowly. Some people get it like that. Some people are like, I have no idea where you just moved your hands. So that's why I'm like, just bear with me. We're going to start with 2 pointer fingers. Your non-dominant hand, you're going to turn it this way. Nope, you're going to leave it. Yes, sorry. Your dominant hand, you're going to turn it this way. I knew I was going to do this. I told you, it's awkward. You're going to take your dominant hand and brush your pointer finger the back of your non-dominant hand. Yes. Oh, Houston, I think I finally made success on how to describe this. The amount of times people will mess up on this one is awful. And I always feel bad because I'm like, I know it's me describing that's messing y'all up. So you're going to have your dominant pointer finger go on the back of your non-dominant. And that is month, month, month. And again, like I said, same thing, 2 months, 3 months, you can add that number to it. Okay. That's one of the things I love about time is it doesn't really change too much when it comes to talking about specific numbers. You just add it on. It goes on together. Okay. Our last one's going to be year. So year, you're going to have 2 fists. You're going to stack them on top of each other. You typically want to have your dominant on top, and you're going to bring your dominant forward and back. So it goes in a full circle. Year, 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 year. Okay, let's do week, month, and year, and then we'll start adding on how you would change it depending on what you're talking about. Okay. So we have week, 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 week. Then we had month, month. So non-dominant stays pointing out this way. Dominant turns and goes on the back. Back. Turn. Lydia, turn your, there you go. There we go. I really need to start, like, I don't want to call people out and be like, you're doing it wrong. But I'm also like, I feel like I'm staring here doing this. And I'm like, I'm staring at one particular person. And they don't realize I'm like trying to tell them. So month. Okay. And then year. 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 Okay. How are we feeling so far on time? Are we feeling good? Like, okay, we're all right. Okay, good, 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 good.
For
It
week, do we have to keep our palm in front or sideways?
sideways. You do want it sideways.
And the finger goes like touching the palm or just this?
It's I don't think actually I always have my palm like it's like on top, like touching. But I think if you did this across, I don't think it would be too confusing. I think they would know you still mean a week. Mhm. Good question. I never actually thought of it that way because I just do this typically myself. So, okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go slow on this, guys. Okay. This is probably where I think we do start to get really in the complicated, like, whoa, that's a lot happening in the signs. Okay. So just, oh, this is time for warning. I'm just sitting here tapping, repeating on my hand. You're like, what is she doing? Yeah, this is just a warning, just like a heads up. Okay. I promise we will go slow with this. So we'll start off easy first with our days. Okay. So the sign for all day is you're going to have your non-dominant arm across. And if you remember, we did our day was just like a pointer finger or kind of a D and went down. For all day, you're going to have your whole hand open and go all day. All day. All day. Okay. Now, if you were talking about, let's do tomorrow first. Well, before I start getting to those, let me explain a little bit of what we're going to be doing, and you'll see it better after I explain it. When you're doing time and talking about things like tomorrow and yesterday, things like that, they're kind of on a timeline. What's really nice in ASL is that it's very visual. Obviously, you're using your hands. One of the things is when you're doing things with time and the timeline, like I said, anything that happens in the future is going to come in front of you. So like future, like it is in front of you. Okay. Anything that's happened in the past, like yesterday, last week, whichever, is going to go behind you. Okay. So I always like to say, think about being on an actual timeline, like a time, it's the line. Anything that's going to happen in the future is going to be right in front of you. Anything that's happened in the past is right behind you. And then present is going to be right here, like our area right here. So like how we did our week here and our day here, it's not moving forward or moving backwards. It is staying stationary. That means it's present. Okay. So, oh, today and tomorrow, today and now are not on here. I will add those after this. So with that being said, tomorrow is going to be, you're going to kind of have this A with your thumb going the corner of your mouth. And you're going to go tomorrow. tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. Okay. For yesterday, there are two ways you can do it. I'm going to show you the first one. The first one is you're going to have that same sort of A corner of your mouth, and you're going to go back to your ear. So yesterday, 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 yesterday. The other way, this is more English. And so what you do is sometimes you'll notice with signs, and I do this too. I do it to I do it as well, is there will be certain signs where you almost have the letter of the word used in your sign. So for example, for yesterday, it's the Y with your thumb still here, and then you go back to your ear. Yesterday. Yesterday. And the reason I said it's more English is because I'm not going to go too deep right now because I'm sure you guys are like, I don't want to hear all of this. But ASL is not the only form of sign language. There's actually multiple different ones besides just a different language itself, like Spanish. There's what's called, we'll just focus on these two. There is one that is called Signing Exact English. And then there is ASL itself. So ASL has its own structure, has its own grammar, everything, syntax, everything. But the Signing Exact English, which is C, that's what it's short for, C, is going to be following those English structures. That's when you're saying like, my name is Jillian, where I add that is in there. That's the C. So there are two different languages with that. Sometimes they can kind of blend together, especially for those like kind of like me who I know English is my first language, ASL is my second, that kind of deal is where they can kind of blend. I try not to, but it can be hard to separate that sometimes. So, right. So if you didn't see, Emily said that in ASL, you don't sign the. It's true. Articles and things like that, you really don't sign like a, am, and you really don't need those because they're embedded in the sign itself. I know it's kind of complicated to say, but that's just how it is. So like the is not really used, but sometimes it does be used in conversation. Like when talking about something like sometimes people will be like the blah, 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 blah. So it's not always going to be just like exactly every time. It's going to be hardcore ASL. Sometimes you may have conversations with people that is a little more C. So when you do yesterday without the pinky, I was about to start with it. This is more ASL, okay? Because it is just the generalized sign for yesterday. When you have the Y in here, it does make it a little bit more English. So that's C, a little bit. It's not really C though, okay? What's interesting is that a lot of people will change it on that. So like when I started learning yesterday, I did yesterday, like all the time. Now I do yesterday because a lot of my students do yesterday. So like I said, sometimes it can kind of blend into it. But okay, so we have our yesterday. Then I wanted to give you guys today. So today, it's going to look awkward because it's usually lower down here, but you can't see this. You're going to have two Y's. You're going to face them up like this, and you're going to bounce them today. Today. And this typically is lower down, kind of more in a comfortable arm distance, but you can't, even when I lift my shoulders, you can't see it. So I'm having them up higher. This is today. Today. And as you've noticed, like I said, with it being here, it's stationary. Like, yes, it's bouncing, but it's not moving forward or back. So that means it's present today. The other one I was going to show you is the sign for now. So the sign for now is going to be, you're going to have this arms up again, but this time you're going to do it one time. Now. Now. I think about almost like it's final. You'll see it a lot. Like parents will be like, you come here right now, like that final like tone. That's how I help remember that this is now. Like it's not today when you come. No, it's now. Now. Okay. Let's go through our day signs real quick before we start moving on to next week, next year, that thing. Okay. So we had all day, which was all day. So open hand, all day. Then we had tomorrow. So tomorrow. Thumb at the corner. Yeah. Corner of your mouth and you go forward. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yesterday. Yesterday or yesterday. Today. So those Y's pointing up. I love how I just kind of scrunch my shoulders, like make it look so uncomfortable. Today. And then our now. 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 Okay, good. Okay, so now moving on to our next week, last week, that sort of thing. Okay, we're going to start with last week this time because next week there are 2 different ways you can do it and they get kind of confusing fast. So we're going to start with last week. For last week, we're going to get in the position like we did our week. So our hand sideways, one is going to slide across and then you're going to turn it and point behind you. Last week. It's kind of almost like a full smooth, like semicircle, like a C. You're just going straight and loop. Last week. Last week. And the nice thing with this is you can also do the same thing with those numbers. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. It's very nice. So last week. Okay. For next week, there are 2 ways. I'm going to show you more of the learning way, and then there's this extra way that can be a little bit complicated. I'm going to show you, more of it is exposure, not teaching, if that makes sense, okay? So for next week, going to have our hand up again like this. Have our pointer finger across, and you're going to go next week. So it's the same thing, but you make that motion going forward. Next week. Next week. Next week. Next week. Again, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay. Next week. Now, the other way that some people will do next week is they will actually do it from the opposite side. So they'll do next week. So they go the other way and go under and out. Next week. Next week. This is why I told you this is a it changes the whole course of this, okay? This whole nicely knowing, oh, last week, next week, and now next week is like, what? And the reason I like to show this one is because guilty over here, I use that one. I didn't use in the beginning. I was this one next week all the time. And then suddenly there was a change where I suddenly was doing next week. And that is what comes out more than this does. And there was one class where I was teaching and I said, it's next week. It's next week. And then when I was telling everybody bye at the end and I said, I will see you guys next week, I legitimately went next week, like next week. And they were like, I caught their faces going, what? And I went, oh no. I just told people it was next week and then I just did something completely different on them. Like, so I like to tell you guys, I tend to do this one. Do not worry if you're like, I can't get the hand placement of that one. Next week will work too. Okay. Next week. I would focus more on this one than trying to get the complicated one right there. Okay. Next week. Just want to let y'all know because I can see me doing it at the end of the class and I don't want no one saying, Joey, you told me wrong. But okay, let's now move on to next month, last month. I'm gonna warn you, next month is one of my least favorite signs. So, because of all the awkward movement places with it again. So we're gonna have our non-dominant pointer finger. Dominant is gonna turn. We're gonna do the same motion. So this is next month. You're gonna go down, loop and point out. Next month. Next month. Next month. Next month. Okay. So next month. For last month, again, the same sort of thing. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. You're going to go down and then you're going to come back. Last month. Please be careful to not accidentally nick yourself in the neck with your nail, okay? I may or may have not done that once or twice. It's not fun. Last month. Last month. Last month. Last month. Okay? And again, the same thing as 2 months ago. Ooh, 2 months ago. See, months, I don't like this one. It's just such a, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm always about to smack myself with it. So 2 months ago, 2 months later, things like that. There you go. Yeah. Okay. How are we? No, you were totally good. If you are not able to because of like position, totally good. You watch and you can, this is receptively, you can receptively watch. So, okay, let's now do next year and last year. Okay. So the nice thing with this is you don't have to do the full circular motion. It's going to be for next year. You're going to tap and then go 1 next year, next year. So you make that motion of it's like coming forward next year. And you want to make sure, like, I'm gonna turn myself sideways so you can see it, but I'm like going forward next year. Next year, next year, next year. Okay. Then last year, there are 2 kind of ways you can do them. One's more like a shorter version. The other one more, I don't want to say normal one, but the more common one is going to be last year. Pat, last year, last year, last year, last year. Last year. The other one is you have it where you go to like for 2 years. It's like you hold that thing, your dominant hand with the 2, and you bounce the 2 back, like 2 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And so that one I would probably do this for right now because since you are learning ASL, it's probably better to be a little bit more clear with that because this can look like 13, even though it's 3 years ago. It's easy to have confusion. So, but okay, let's do our last week, next week, all the way up to our years. All right. So we had last week, last week, last week. Then next week, next week, next week. Then we had last month, last month, last month, last month. Remember, your non-dominant hand is pointing out. There we go. Yeah, last month. And then next month, next month, next month. Okay, then we had next year, next year, next year, next year. Whichever your dominant hand is, I will put it on top, whatever is the most comfortable making the motion. Next year, and then last year, last year, last year, last year. Okay, how are we feeling on our signs for time now? Feeling? Yes, I can show that one. Hold on, let me get a sip. And then I think, Margaret, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious when you're doing like next year or last year, whichever hand you're doing, is that the way you sort of throw it backwards or forwards, or do you go across your body, or does it matter?
I do it going, whoops, like last year. I have it more on that side. So I'm not doing last year. I mean, you
Okay.
could, but it's a little more awkward. Whereas like right
Right.
here, resting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So for 24 hours, you can do 24 hours in a, like, okay. When you mean 24 hours in a day, do you mean the actual phrase 24 hours in a day? Okay. So if it were me, and maybe this might be different if you're like, that's not what I mean. If I was talking about 24 hours every day, that sort of thing, is I would do 24 or like I said, I do this 20. I'm guilty of that. So 24 hours every day. So the sign for every day is a thumb, and you're just going to go across your chin, your jaw. And you just keep going back and forth every day, every day. So I would say 24 hours every day. But if you're talking about there's 24 hours in a day, that's when I would add the sign for in. So 24 hours in a day. So this is in, in. It's like an open sea, and you just kind of drop it in, in. 24 hours in a day. Okay. There is a sign for weekend. I cannot believe we've actually never done the sign for weekend. I'm actually kind of shocked right now. So, okay, so the sign for weekend is you're going to have your hand again in this position for week. You're going to start off like normal with doing your week, and then you're going to open your hand and do end. Weekend, 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 weekend. So yeah, when you do it real fast, it's a very smooth like motion. Weekend, weekend. So yeah, oh my gosh, I'm
Speaking
like,
of things being smooth and one motion, I just want to say something. I've taken French and Spanish, and I took Greek, and I tried to learn Hebrew. Didn't last long. Tried to learn Japanese. I did okay. ASL is one of my favorite languages, but it is just like all the other languages because you practice saying like bon appetit, you know, and then you get to Paris and it doesn't sound like that. So Jillian showed us how to say good morning. And so I'm like, oh, I can say good morning. And then one day she was signing something, not good morning, signing something, and she happened to sign good morning in that phrase. And I realized her good morning when she's just signing is not like it's very fluid, it's very smooth. It, you know, like people might be like, I don't know that she's native, but like it doesn't look like what we do. So I want you to show them.
I will, because I completely forgot about that one. And someone asked, how would we sign for the morning and PM? And that is where you would add in morning, afternoon, or night. So I will give you guys those, and then I will show you how to say good morning, good night, okay? And then I'll give you the more ASL natural conversation one, okay? That she's calling me out for. So the sign for morning is again going to be kind of a big one. You're going to have your non-dominant arm across. You're going to put your dominant arm, you're going to put your non-dominant hand on top of your dominant arm. I don't know what that is. Armpit, not your armpit. What is that? I don't know what that word is right now. I've lost what body part it is. I apologize. Bicep, there it is. I'm staring at it going, I don't know this word right now. And you're going to go morning. So you're going to bring it up. Morning, okay? Morning. Now, for afternoon, you're going to now put non-dominant arm across. Afternoon is going to have your hand, think like walk like Egyptian, like that hand position, like that. You're going to stick it out like this and just bounce. Afternoon. And this is because if you were to visualize an actual like time clock, that kind of motion, this is morning, like the time is coming up, like the sun's coming up, this sort of thing. Well, this is the afternoon because the sun is starting to go down. Okay. Afternoon. Then we have night. Night is just going to be night. Night. You just put your hand on top, a fist, and you put your dominant hand on top of it. Night. Night. Okay. All right. So if you were to say good morning, good night, things like that, you are going to add the sign for good, which is going to be, you're going to start with your non-dominant palm out like this, dominant on your chin, and go good. Now it's very important you keep that palm up the whole time. Good. And the reason I say that is because if you turn it, you are saying bad. That is the opposite. So good, bad. And I don't think you want to say bad morning, okay? Unless you're being silly. I've done that with my kids because they were like, I said good morning to them and they were all mad. And I went, oh, okay, so bad morning. And they're like, but that's just me. I like to tease them. So good, bad. Okay. All right. So if you were to sign good morning in the typical full like ASL proper, I guess I would say the ASL proper way, you would do good morning. Okay. So good morning. The way Miss Katie's calling me out on is the more typical I don't want to say the lazier version, but it's more like the shorthand version.
Oh,
Okay.
it's not that. It's just you can tell when you're signing that when you get more fluid, your signs change shape and they're not so gangly and awkward. And yeah.
No, you
That's
made a
all.
perfect comparison to being like when you're talking like in a language, like she was saying, like with French, when people are learning a language, they're very almost choppy because they're not used to it. And then the minute they do, they get that smooth fluid. Yeah. I mean, it's the exact same. Yes. Like slang kind of deal. Exactly. That's why I was like, I don't want to say it's lazy, but I've tried to always think of a better word for it. So the one she's talking about is you're going to start here and you're going to go, good morning. There's no non-dominant hand. It is literally just one hand on your chin. Good morning.
I'm telling y'all, I'm all like, good morning, like waving my arms. Mm-mm.
It makes you feel better. I was that way during my internship. I was like, good morning, like to everyone, like big and wild. And I remember on my first day, I was walking through the campus and I like would meet people and I had on a backpack. I had on like I was holding my binder, my books, everything. And I'm trying to like shift my binders to be like, good morning. Like, I mean, I'm literally awkwardly holding everything. And like the staff would be like, good morning, good morning. And I was like, oh, wait, so I don't have to like hold everything and go good morning? Like I can just say good morning. So that was a very much of a learned sign for me. Because I was like, oh, okay, this one I'm picking up on. So good morning. Good morning. Okay. The same thing if you were to say good night, good night. Now, good night does not have a short and. If you do this, they're gonna think you're saying bad. So good night. Good night. Good night. I think it's because it's already kind of small and condensed that it's not like you're changing much. Whereas with good morning, it's good morning. It's like big arms and everything. Good night's already kind of close. Good night. Okay. We have like 15 minutes left. What we're going to do is we're going to do the signs for the days of the week. They're not as complicated. Almost all of them are similar in their concept of how you do them with just a slight change. And then I will explain to you how you do months of the year. Okay? Yes, Emily.
Yeah, so is good night making full contact on the fist, or do you have it as a C?
So I realized I did that too. So good night is this. Some people do not fully go on top. It's still meaning good night. That's why I think I did it one time was like that, was good night. But good night. Good night. You do want to kind of close the hand on top because that is night. So good night. Thank you for that. I even saw myself doing, I was like, did I
But
really
Jillian, you're saying if we did see somebody that didn't quite close it, we should know that
that would mean night. Right.
Gotcha.
It kind of depends on also like some people are more comfortable with their like the contact. Like, I mean, for example, like some people for yesterday, instead of doing like yesterday where they're actually like touching skin, they may go yesterday, like more spread out. Some people do that. It is kind of a personal preference. So things like that can be, because that's why I was kind of like, that's why I think I did that open. Not like I have a touch thing. It's just some people do that because they don't want to go full on top. They just kind of open handed a little. So yeah. Okay. So for our days of the week, we're going to start off with our Monday and go that way because Sundays are different sign. Okay. Monday through Saturday, very similar. Sunday changes on us. All right. So the sign for Monday is you're going to start as an M. You're going to turn it to where the back of your hand is pointing that way and you're looking at it. And you're going to go in a circular motion. Monday. Monday. Okay. Then we have Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be the same thing, but with a T. So I'm going to show you the T, turn back, circular motion, Tuesday. Okay. Then Wednesday, it's going to be the W, circular motion, Wednesday. And then for Thursday, because we already used the T for Tuesday, it's technically the H, but we do kind of straighten it a little bit more like this. So it looks a little bit like a U and you go Thursday. Some people will do the full circular Thursday, but then also there's this Thursday as well. So like, it's not the end of the world if you don't get it exactly angled, Thursday. Okay. Sorry, my computer was saying that low battery, so I was trying to make sure. I think I'll have enough time for this. If not, I will quickly charge this right here. Then we have Friday, so it's going to be the F. It's like our F. Turn it, and you're going to shake it or circle it, Friday. Not necessarily the circular motion. I typically make the motion of going in, like heading towards the center, Friday. But I don't think so, because I'm having to like stare at both hands while I do that to make sure, because like I may be like, oh no, I don't think so. I think it's fine. And then I'll be like, wait a minute, no, that does totally throw it off. I think that one is one where if you the circular, whichever way, either way will work. Okay. And then our Saturday. Saturday is going to be the S. You're going to turn it and make a circular motion. I am going to quickly plug in my phone. Not my phone. I'm sorry, my computer. I'm having that teacher moment because I do not want to like it to die on us in the last literally 10 minutes of class. So, okay. All right. So let's do our Monday through Saturday again. So we had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. Now, some people do ask this when we are signing these. They ask, how can you tell the difference between like Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday? Really, after a while, you start to kind of familiarize with the hand placement. So like, for example, for my M for Monday, if you notice, I have a slightly something sticking out right here. Like there's 3 bumps, Monday. Okay. Tuesday is going to have the thumb sticking out more up here for Tuesday. And then Saturday is kind of right here in between. Like you can clearly tell my fingers are not on top of my thumb. Saturday. It can be like a learning, like to catch that and kind of notice it. But once you do, you'll be able to pick up on it a lot faster. Okay. For Sunday, there are 2 ways you can do it. The first one is going to be with open hands like this and do Sunday, circular motions. Sunday. Sunday. The other one is going to be Sunday. So it's like you cross your arm and you just pat. Sunday. Either way, I see both used often. So it's not like I see one more than the other. Either way, I do this Sunday, but I've seen this one also. Sunday.
Yeah, and in the 90s, I learned it was like this and this, like pat, pat. So is that not used anymore?
I don't think so. I'm wondering if it was kind of related with that motion.
Maybe.
Because I know that with this kind of Sunday, the meaning is like almost like rejoicing. And so that's where that motion of like that circular motion goes from, is that Sunday of like rejoice. Whereas this one's like for resting, day of rest kind of deal. They both have that meaning behind it. So, but yeah, I'm wondering the cool thing with ASL is always evolving, just like our language is evolving. You know, we're not staying stationary on the same words, and we have new words that come in every day. Not come in. I love how I said that. There are new words that are always being made in English. Same thing is kind of with ASL, like they're having to kind of translate with that. Like, I'm trying to think of a word that, like, okay. For those of you who are probably close around my age, if you guys remember when we were like in middle school, we used to say, oh, you're the OG, things like that, like the original gangsta, that kind of thing. That hit my school like 2 or 3 years ago. It was really funny because it was not my classroom, but a teacher who's been there for like 25, 30 years, who is deaf herself, came and asked one of my coworkers, she was like, hey, what is this sign? And she like signed it. And I knew, it's like, I'm not going to know that sign. Well, I started watching the conversation because she was asking another teacher, and she starts to finger spell the word. I'm like, wait a minute, I think I just caught that. And I was like, I know what that word is. And they really did. And so there was the sign that came up with OG, like OG. It was that kind of thing for original gangster. but it was kind of funny to watch because I'm sitting here watching this conversation. I finally went, did you just say original gangster? And the teacher was like, yes, you know. And I said, that's from when I was back in school. So like I'm explaining to her what it means, things like that. So the ASL is also changing just as much as like English does with that sort of thing. And there will be signs that may not be used as much anymore because they're kind of old, or they'll change to kind of fit with the terms now, that kind of deal. So things like that do happen. So like when you said like the 90s, they might have done this. Definitely, I could see that kind of just slowly like changing and evolving to this. I can see where that motion can come from. So, but yeah, okay. So the last little thing we're gonna do is the months of the year. What's really, really nice for the months of the year is you just fingerspell the first 3-4 letters of the month. Okay. So for January, it's Jan. And then February, first off, can I just like, bravo, all of y'all did that so smooth. I'm super impressed. I watched you all just go January. I was like, okay, I see someone's been practicing our ABCs because most of the time it's J-A, like that hand like bopping motion, but you all just went January. So, I mean, work it, you guys. Okay, then we have February, so F-E-B, February. March, I have to go, like, I have to think what the next month is because I'm going so slow. M-A-R, M-A-R, And then April is going to be, typically April, you do fingerspell the full letters just because it's so short. A-P-R-I-L. April. Then May is going to be the same way, M-A-Y, May-Y. June is the same way, J-U-N-E, J-U-N-E. July, same way, J-U-L-Y, July. That's just me going really fast, just trying to brag a little since everyone else is going so smooth. I thought I should join in. Then we have August, A-U-G. So August. So A-U-G. It's a practice, I know. Then we have September. So September is going to be S-E-P-T. So S-E-P-T. Here's the cool thing, I think, because I think you guys can handle this. When you're doing the P and the T, you can do P and pull up into a T. If you caught me doing that. So you don't have to go S-E-P-T, like that awkward. You can literally just pull into it. P-T, P-T. It's very smooth. That's that fluid motion I was talking about. P-T, P-T. Okay. Then we have October. So O-C-T, O-C-T. November, N-O-V. And then December, D-E-C. D-E-C. I'm telling E and C's are, when they're together, they're almost the worst, okay? Because my hand wants to either jump to the C or jump to the E, and then they flip on each other. So D-E-C. And I know I did a screaming E with that. I'm trying to not, but I was trying to emphasize that my E's up here. But then I told you, it wants to go to a C. Like, it wants to go so fast that, like, oh, what am I doing? I'm doing C, D-C. Y'all, it's been a day. My hand is like, I'm done. I'm not spelling December anymore. But yeah, so D-E-C. Okay. So I think that's always nice with the months being just the first letters because we all know the letters of the ABCs and then the months of the year. Makes it a little bit easier when we're learning all these other time signs. Okay. So we have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to kind of leave it open. I'm not going to throw new signs to you guys. Yes. So from April to July, you would fingerspell the entire word itself. And one of the things that's nice is the more you practice with that, it almost becomes a fluid sign. Basically, I'm trying to remember that's the correct term for it. But basically, it's where I do my May. You see how I'm just sliding into it. It's not like I'm going M-A-Y. I'm going May, May, It's a very smooth motion, but I'm still finger spelling it.
Is this like the sign for bus?
Bus, yep, bus. So what she's saying is bus has a couple of different ways. One of them is bus. It's like you finger spell bus as you make that circular motion. Bus, bus, bus. It's hard to go slow because it's such a fluid motion. Bus. And that kind of can be the same way for the months of the year from that April to July. Like when I did my July, I barely did my full J. I just went July, July. So the more you practice, the more you'll pick up. And the thing is too, that's really nice with it is it's not really like you have to specifically practice it to be exactly like that. Your hand will naturally, hopefully, I think most will, naturally follow that smooth motion. Because it just gets used to that repetitive like movement that it'll follow with. So you don't have to worry about being like, I have to exactly make sure my hand does this. Like, no, it's just July, July. Same thing can go with your name too. When you practice spelling your name enough times, like I have Jillian, that is not, if I'm spelling it out, that does not look like I'm spelling out every letter, but it's because it's so smooth you can't catch it. So are there any questions you guys have? We have about a minute left. I was going to leave it open. Any questions you guys have? They don't have to be necessarily related with time as of right now. They could be just kind of anything you're curious about, anything like that.
What if we want to say any specific time, suppose 9:45 a.m.?
Okay, so that's a good question. If you're talking about a time like 9:45, let's say you're doing 9:45, you're going to have that fist like we did with our time. You're going to go 9, like you have your 9, you tap it on there 9:45, 9:45, 9:45. You have that almost like slow hesitancy so it knows that you're talking about the minute. It's kind of like the context of it, you catch it. So 9:45, 9:45, 9:45. If you're saying in the morning or night, that's when you would add the morning. So 9:45 morning. 9:45 night. Again, I did it again, night. Night. Okay. Any other questions you guys have?
I was going to ask, how do you say iPhone? Because you were talking about how signs change over times. So I was wondering what that one was.
So that's an interesting one because if you're talking about exactly iPhone itself, there's a different sign. The sign for phone itself is just still phone. It still holds on. It's still holding here, which I do think is always kind of interesting because for deaf people, it's not, they don't typically have their phone like this. So they'll do phone, but then they'll hold, like they'll still do the sign for phone, but then pull it out here like FaceTiming. But iPhone, I've seen people use the I and they'll go iPhone, like they'll have it just go in the corner of their cheek where the phone is. iPhone. That's always an interesting one, iPhone. Sometimes I see them go iPhone. Most of the time I think if like it's kind of, we've seen whoever we're talking with, we've already seen like us use that before. We know like, oh, that's an iPhone, that kind of thing. But yeah, I've also seen like phone, like this motion of like going up on your phone, like kind of like, tapping and like the touch screen, that kind of thing, phone. Texting is still texting though, like the little like beep beep motions of texting. Yeah, texting. So yeah, no, it's funny watching some that change and then be like, we're still keeping with this. I mean, I guess that makes sense because like when we're typing like this still, but I'm like, I just see buttons from when I had like like an old keyboard phone, like way back in like 7th grade. So, but yeah, our iPhones and our phones. iPad is also like, iPad is like you have the pointer finger and it's like iPad kind of motion. It's always interesting. So
You know, that's one thing that we've not done is technology signs, and it might be something to think about. I don't know.
I think it could be a fun little one to add. Like, I think it could go with kind of when we do our hodgepodge class where we kind of do a bunch of different objects kind of deal. We usually have one class at the end of the end of the year. Oh my goodness, you guys, you can totally tell I'm teacher mode. But at the end of the class group where we I call it like the hodgepodge class because it's so many different like subjects all compiled into one. It's not one full subject. And And I think this time y'all may not be getting that because you guys are getting the Halloween signs, which we'll be doing next week. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, they're one of my favorites. Okay, like literally Halloween signs are so much fun. We're gonna do some holidays with them as well. Like I'll probably add Christmas signs in that one as well. We'll do Halloween and then we'll do Christmas ones.
No,
'cause
I
that's
did I put in the holidays.
perfect.
I put in
Perfect.
the major holidays we did last time. But I might throw in like Christmas tree and some of the other
Oh my gosh, yes.
or
Like,
stocking or stuff like that.
yeah, so we'll have a fun time with that one next week, guys. All right, are there any final questions? I know we're over time, but I want to make sure. Any final questions? Nope, we're good. All right, well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.